and welcome back to the LFC transfer room. Today, we've got an interview with Keiran Fleming about Liverpool's newest signing, Calvin Ramsay. But Keiran, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm not bad, mate. Thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, definitely. The last video went really well, so we thought we'd have you back on again to give us a bit more in depth on Liverpool's newest signing. But how we always start this, because there's a lot of people who haven't seen Calvin Ramsay play. Obviously, the Scottish League isn't the most watched league by English people, you might say. But for someone who has never watched him, how would you describe Calvin Ramsay?
Well, he's an attacking fullback. He's very much in a similar mold to Trent Alexander-Arnold, really. He's fantastic going forward, and his crosses are amazing. They're almost pinpoint. And an underrated skill of his, in my opinion, is the fact he can fizz it with both feet. Which I mean, for a fullback who you'd imagine is predominantly one-footed. No, this boy can play either foot. It doesn't bother him. His first goal for the club was with his left foot, and it was unreal. He caught on his left against Dundee from outside the box and fired it just powered it past the keeper, and it was fantastic. And it literally 2 minutes before he did the exact same thing, and the keeper saved it. So it just shows you that he's got a lot of quality going forward and attacking. His defensive side of the game, there's a lot to work on there. But again, he's 18. He'll turn 19 just after the season starts. So there's a big ceiling and there's a lot of hopes put on his shoulders. Definitely, he should be an international player by this time next year, hopefully.
Yeah, and obviously you said that he's good with both feet. Is that maybe potential to have him playing left back if Liverpool need it in the future, or have Aberdeen not really experimented with that?
He's, as far as I'm aware, I've never seen him play left back, and he's not played left back this season at all. Aberdeen already have another young left back who's done really well, Jack McKenzie, who's a bit more defensively solid, and he's always playing left back. But potentially in the future, he's still young. He used to play midfield. Sounds very similar to someone else in the Liverpool team who's now a fullback. So he's good on the ball. He's good going forward, but they've not tried him at left back yet. But it would be interesting. It would be an interesting move, definitely.
Yeah, sounds at the moment sounds like you're describing a Scottish Trent Alexander-Arnold, which I'm sure will make a lot of Liverpool fans happy. But obviously, we've seen in the past the Premier League is one of, if not the hardest league to join. It's very physical, very fast paced. We've got some of the best managers in the world, some of the best players in the world, and we know how important wingers are in the modern game. Which
Mhm.
means being a fullback is very important too. And as you've said, defensive liabilities can be an issue. We have seen it with our own Trent Alexander-Arnold, but he's 18. There's obviously still a lot to work. But how do you think he's going to adapt to life in the Premier League?
Well, it's like with any move, really. It takes time, especially for someone who's so young and he's leaving home for the first time. If you think about it, like if I was his age and I was moving away to do something else and play with the best team in the world, I mean, I'd love that opportunity, but it does take time to adapt. But I feel like sometimes, obviously, I'm going to be biased here. The Scottish League can be overlooked. If you look at Liverpool's team right now, two of their best players started their career in Scotland. Like reignited their career in Scotland. You got Van Dijk, who's arguably the best centre back in the league, and Andy Robertson, who was dropped by Celtic and at Queens Park and playing at Dundee United, and that's where they really cut their teeth. And there's players across the league like Kieran Tierney at Arsenal, Stuart Armstrong at Southampton, who started his career at Dundee United as well. There's loads of Scottish players that have adapted to the English Premier League and adapted well. I think the other thing that people forget is that so far Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp haven't really made many mistakes in the transfer window. You can't think of many duds. Maybe Karius, but apart from that, there's not been many. Um, and if Klopp likes Calvin Ramsay, then obviously there's something there, and he knows there's something there. So yeah, I think give him time. Simicast is the same. Give him time to adapt, and you'll get the best out of him, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, mentioning Kostas Tsimikas, actually, my next question. We saw when Tsimikas joined it, he's really impressed, and there was actually a lot of shouts earlier in the season for him to replace Andy Robertson due to had a few poor performances from the Scotland captain. But we've had an issue with Trent right back for a long time. Conor Bradley hasn't really stepped up. Nico Williams just isn't the same mold of right back. Do you think he's going to have the same impact as Kostas Tsimikas had? A very similar player to Andy Robertson, who's going to be, give Trent more time to rest, which is definitely needed for the England right back.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like with Ramsey, if you use Ramsey in that Liverpool team, it's not going to be the same quality, but it's essentially the same player as Alexander-Arnold. For me, Alexander-Arnold, his positives are going forward, and because when he makes mistakes at the back, he's not really a defensive-minded player, and neither is Calvin Ramsay. The big difference with Calvin Ramsay and Trent Alexander-Arnold is Trent Alexander-Arnold's playing alongside two of the best centre backs in the Premier League, in Europe, in the world. Calvin Ramsay was playing beside two centre backs who, couldn't really defend last season either. So that kind of brings his defensive numbers down as well. But given that license to go forward, he could have a fantastic output, a similar output to Trent Alexander-Arnold at some point. I mean, he's had 10 goal contributions in 33 games for a team that finished third bottom of the league. So that's nearly a goal contribution every third game. That's nuts if you think about it for a team that couldn't score.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like to get the thoughts of especially like Aberdeen fans, but what are their thoughts on selling Calvin Ramsay? I mean, I've read a lot of articles about he was the shining star this season. He was probably, I think he won Young Player of the Season, and I know there's loads of different awards that like people have. I know he won one of the Young Player of the Season's awards, but what are their thoughts? Are they happy with the fee? I think it's 6.5 million, as Paul Joyce reported, but there was reports that Aberdeen were pushing for 10 million at one point. So is it a good, are Aberdeen fans happy with the result, or do they prefer to keep hold of him?
I think the consensus is that that they're happy that's a club record fee for them. It was Scott McKenna, who's now been promoted to the Premier League. That was their last club record fee, and he was 3 million up front. And I think this deal is 4.5 million up front. And obviously, we don't really know much about the add-ons, and I doubt we ever will really know much about the add-ons. It could go from anywhere to a total of 6 million to a total of, as you said, 10 million, 8.5 million, whatever it is. But 4.5 million up front for a team in the Scottish Premier League is a lot of money. It's nothing to Liverpool, but for Aberdeen, for anyone outside of Celtic and Rangers, that's a lot of money. And I feel like, to me, this transfer could change the landscape a bit in Scottish football. It might mean that there's a few young players coming through at Hibs, like Josh Doig. Maybe they feel like, well, if Aberdeen can demand that much, why can't we? So we might see a lot more bigger fees in Scotland now, which could be good. Aberdeen fans in general, it's a weird one. There's a divide. There's people who don't think Calvin Ramsay is that good just because of the defensive errors he's made, and then there's other people who are like, well, yeah, he's made defensive errors, but look at the defenders he's played with, and look what he's done going forward. So they're happy to see him leave just because of the fee that's coming, and that can be reinvested into an academy that's churning out stars right now. Aberdeen's got a young midfielder, Connor Barron, who's now being scouted by Brentford and Genk. And he's really kicked on just after he came back from loan in a League Two side here in Scotland, and he'll be their next big star to leave for potentially even more money. And that's the exciting thing, I think. So definitely here in the Northeast.
Yeah, I mean, I think Liverpool, this is the second youngster that he brought from Scotland this summer, Ben Dowick from Celtic as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they both play in the under Scotland team together. I feel like I've read somewhere that they were assisting each other, which was a big thing. But obviously with the 5 substitution rule coming in, the benches, I think, are getting it increased to 9 potentially, or maybe a little bit less. But do you think Jurgen Klopp is going to be able to develop him into the next Trent Alexander-Arnold, especially with him going to be getting so many more, playing opportunities with the new sub rule coming in?
Yeah, I think that Calvin Ramsay's ceiling is very, very, very high. And I've spoke to a couple of Aberdeen legends, and they think, this move to Liverpool, he's going to be, he's a top 5 Premier League club player. That's his potential. And he's going to be an international mainstay for years to come. I really think he could adapt really well to the Premier League. He's a physical player. You think he's got quite a slight frame, but he's up to any challenge. I mean, the Scottish Premier League, we might not be the most technical up here, but if you want a dogfight, you'll get a dogfight. So the physicality of the English Premier League won't faze him that much. And technically he's amazing, especially for the standard here. He's head and shoulders above a lot of the players. I really think he has the potential to be, I don't want to say the next Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't like when people say the next, like Messi, the next Ronaldo. But he has the potential to be one of these standout right backs in Europe, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned earlier in the interview, obviously he has played in midfield, similar to Trent Alexander-Arnold. The issue we've had with Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool is he's so young, it's very hard to push his position. That's why Nico Williams is on the move, because he can't see himself beating him. We've talked about how similar they are in profile. Ramsey's obviously not at his level yet. But in the future, could you see either Ramsey or Trent maybe moving into midfield? A lot of Liverpool fans have talked about that. It's a very hot topic that people are either very for or very against. But if Calvin Ramsay does turn out to be, I know you don't like it, but the next Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's going to be very hard to have them both on, happy with sitting on the bench, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I feel like if Trent or Calvin Ramsay were good enough to play in midfield, they would have already done it. As in, like, at that level. Like, Jurgen Klopp's, he's not stupid. So he obviously realizes that the midfielders he currently has in midfield work, and that they're his top midfielders. He's not going to change that to experiment with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's, the best right back in the Premier League. Why would he put the best right back in the Premier League out of position? Doesn't make any sense. Same with Calvin Ramsay. If Calvin Ramsay was a top quality midfielder, he would have already been playing in the midfield at Aberdeen. So I understand why people, they want Trent to fit in to different, like, it's the England conversation, isn't it? Like, they want Trent to play for England, and they think the way is in midfield. But Gareth Southgate's not going to randomly experiment with Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. It just wouldn't work. And the same with Calvin Ramsay. I don't think either of those players would be playing in the midfield for Liverpool. If they end up on the same level, as in terms of quality, I reckon one of them will just end up going. That's the way it's going to end up. It's whoever shouts the most, I think, will end up leaving the club. But we've got a while till that happens.
Yeah, I think, we want someone who's happy to be a backup at the moment, and, Calvin Ramsay coming in is that perfect position and solution, similar to Kostas Tsimikas. But finally, what would you consider a good season for Calvin Ramsay in his opening Premier League campaign with Liverpool?
Well, the first thing that I think Liverpool fans, they're obviously excited about Calvin Ramsay, and that's, you can see why he's a quality player. But again, he's young. We need to just patience for the first season. I think he's 18. 18-year-olds need time to adapt. He's never moved away from home. So the first season, I think it's not going to be a write-off. He's going to get his playing time, and he's going to show what he can do. But I think for Calvin Ramsay personally, I genuinely think he's going to be playing. The fact he's training with one of the best teams in Europe, and he's going to be alongside Andy Robertson, who in Scottish fullbacks, I mean, there's not many better, is there? So for Calvin Ramsay first season, he'll just be training with the first team, developing his game, getting a few minutes here and there. I reckon he'll be playing in a lot of cup games, which would be good to see. But just for the first season, I just don't put him under pressure. He doesn't need the pressure. If he's gonna be good. I know he's gonna be good. We all know he's gonna be good. But it takes time. It takes time. So first season, just give him time, gets a few minutes. That'd be a good season. As long as he gets the chance to show what he can do at that level, I think that'd be good for him.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, working alongside the Scotland captain is going to mean a lot for him going forward in the Scotland national team, which I'm sure would have been part of his thinking about moving to Liverpool too. But Keiran, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can everybody find you on Twitter, your articles, stuff like that?
So on Twitter, I'm at K_Fleming too. And for all your Aberdeen live, so it's Aberdeen. Oh, I don't know. I've forgotten the Twitter handle.
That it'll be in the. I'll put it in the description below.
That's good. I'm glad you'll do that because I will get sacked if I forget my own Twitter handle of the business. That would be good.
Yeah,
So for all your Aberdeen FC articles, we'll be doing a lot of Calvin Ramsay stuff even when he moves away as well. So if you want to keep up with Calvin Ramsay, any other young stars, I mean, there's a few coming in the Aberdeen Academy. They've just invested a lot of money into it, so expect a lot more potential Liverpool players coming through at Aberdeen.
yeah, definitely. We seem to be looking at the Scottish League recently, so maybe in the future, and with a good relationship with Aberdeen, we never know what could happen. We could have you on the channel in the future as well. But Keiran, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you go and check out his links in the description. Leave a like on the video and subscribe. I've been Charlie, and thank you for watching.